Hi there folks, Skullgrim140 back for another Transformers review, and as you can pretty much already tell, Auto Assembly now is officially done for another year. It's finished, it's come, and it's gone. It's been about roughly 2 weeks now since the convention, and everyone who's attended has now got back to their lives, including myself. But I don't want to, but then again, that's sort of the thing you have to do after going to a convention. You have to get back to the real world. But yeah, so now that that's over, I thought I might as well take this time to finally start reviewing some of the things that I bought at this year's Auto Assembly. So, as you can tell from the title above, we're looking at another Hunt for the Decepticons figure again. I like this line, of course, as you know why. It takes the best elements from the movieverse and the classics universe and combines them together to make an entirely different toy. And this wasn't one of the first things I bought. This wasn't one of the first figures I bought because I couldn't find it for a good price, but this is one of the last things I bought because I had the right amount of money and just grabbed it. No questions asked. So, yeah, today we're going to be taking a look at Hunt for the Decepticons Highbrow. And this is a very weird thing because Highbrow... Okay, I love this toy. I've wanted this toy for a while because I love the design of it. The design is fantastic. It's a fantastic looking figure in terms of its detail and how realistic it looks as well. The colours I have a problem with, but I'll get onto that in a minute. But this is very weird because when it comes to Highbrow, the first thing people immediately think of is, of course, is the G1 the Auto Headmaster from G1, who of course is a prominent character in Headmasters as well. This is not that character. This is an entirely different character. It's a different character with that character that we all remember from G1 with his name attached to it. And I guess that's not bad. But then again, since Highbrow was a helicopter, this is a plane. They are two different characters, unless you can imagine Highbrow got damaged and suddenly changed his appearance to make him look a little bit more older than he already does. I don't know. But anyway, Highbrow's character and his bio, there isn't really a lot to say, and this is normally the point where I would spend hours rambling about the character, but Highbrow, of course, is a sadly fictionless character that has not very much to do in the stories, and that's a shame, because each character, of course, has a purpose in the stories, depending on who they are. Excuse me. It just depends on whether the character actually has a purpose or not, and this is one of those characters that should have had a purpose, but sadly didn't. But the long and short of Highbrow's bio is, Highbrow is an old Transformer. He's older than Jetfire and Ransack put together. Age comes with experience, as Highbrow would pretty much already say. And the Highbrow, of course, is an old fighter. He's an old pilot. He has the personality and the feel and the motivation and the know-how of your standard pilot that you would have in World War II, World War I. And even though he might look old and frail and somewhat weak, he can actually kick ass in his flight mode and in his robot mode as well. So he is quite a strong old-timer, and that's always a good thing as well. You at least like to have an old Transformer that even though he might look weak, he can still be very strong, and that's a good thing as well. When it comes to Highbrow's role in the stories, though, and bearing in mind the Hunt for the Decepticons line is in tie with the movieverse as well, he didn't really do a whole lot. According to his bio, of course, he and Ratchet once teamed up to try and take down the Fallen, and even though they couldn't defeat him, they knew that they would eventually do it again, even though, of course, the Fallen ended up dying in Revenge of the Fallen. Kind of feels pointless, doesn't it? And Highbrow's only role in the fiction, this was in one of the comics that tied in with the movies as well. This was in I think this was the Unite for Universe comic and the Strongest Weapon, where Highbrow and Tomahawk provided an escort for the Nest plane carrying Ratchet to the battle zone when Starscream used the Unite process to power himself up and challenge Megatron's leadership. And really, that's just about it. There's not much I can really say about the character. I really wish that there was more for this character to do, then that way I'd have a lot more to say. But then again, that's just how it is, sadly. But really, what else can you say except Highbrow is an old Transformer. Old and powerful and strong and powerful in the air and just a great character. Well, characterless, I should say. A character that deserved a character, if that makes any sense. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the toy, because the toy, on the other hand, where the character was very little, the toy actually makes up for it a lot. Now, the toy, this is a fantastic way of taking an old vehicle and incorporating him in a Transformers toy line and just making it work. with old planes like Ransack, of course, is a biplane. Highbrow's alt mode, of course, is a World War II era fighter resembling a what is it? It resembles a Lockheed P-38 Lightning plane, and it just looks fantastic. Immediately, this is one of the main reasons why I like this line a lot, because it takes some of the best in the movie line, such as the detail and everything else, with the less of the faces and all that, but it takes the detail and the look and the realistic feel of the vehicles and incorporates it into this fine example of how you do a toy, and it just looks fantastic. The plastic is very good, very thick and very quite hard. Just a fantastic plane to have. Right all over the body of the plane, all over it, you can see a lot of detail on the wings, on the front to the back. The detail is quite nice, and of course on the side of the cockpit you can see the letters P+10, which is quite nice. And this is a minor complaint, but then again, this all boils down to the design of the Lockheed as well. But the Lockheed, of course, is known for having the cockpit at the back rather than at the middle, where you find most cockpits in planes. That's just a minor thing. I'm not bothered by it. Then again, World War II aircraft was always very unique in terms of its design, and this was before the technology caught up with it in making fast, more powerful planes, like the F-15 and all that. This is one of those that actually did a great job in just raining down death from above and just unleashing all sorts of terror and mayhem. But one thing that I got a gripe with is that, okay, if you look on the wings, you'll see the Gatling guns and the missiles. And the missiles, of course, are just, they're attached missiles, so they can't be removed. But, okay, normally when the plane is flying by, the missiles will drop, or the missiles will fire at the plane, so like heat seeks them. So they're like missiles that will, of course, take down the enemy. But the one thing that bothers me, though, is the fact that the Gatling guns are where the rotors for the plane are, in that if, for example, the pilot saw an enemy right in front of them, and the first thing you would do is take down the enemy, the bullets of that gun would immediately just ricochet right back off of the propellers, and would just kind of just aim for the window. So, not the best place to have the guns. I mean, the guns would be much better here, because that way they're out of the way of the rotors, but what are you going to do? It was World War II, so whatever. The one thing I like, though, in this design is that, of course, the colours, well, being what they are, excuse me, this has a very unique gimmick in that if you look at the top right here, this is where the engines are for the plane. If you press these two buttons, they activate the propellers. The rotors themselves, of course, move when you press these buttons. Gotta love that. I like that. It's gimmicks like that that actually make this figure. It's gimmicks like that. It's gimmicks like these that help make these figures look really good and stand out as well. Now the colours, of course, again, the colours they're a bit bland. They're just a bit generic army colours, just standard green. But then again, this would have been a much more different colour back in them days. It would have either been grey or whatever, grey or brown or whatever, but green, like, I can see why it's one of those colours that, of course, works for old World War II planes. It's a minor complaint, so I'll just get it out of the way. And, of course, at the bottom you can see the blue, which, of course, is going to be for the robot mode. And it hides the robot mode very well, so that's a pretty good thing. The jet mode actually does a great job of hiding a lot of the robot mode that you can barely even see, and that's really good. Now, transforming this figure, of course, is not fun, but it's what makes this figure kind of stand out from being interesting. So the first thing, of course, you want to do, and I'll talk through this so we can get this out of the way, move a lot of the pieces down, as well as just move the back pieces as well. The one thing as well I will get onto in a minute is the fact that the toy actually does a fantastic... There goes one of the pieces. The toy actually does a great job of making the old design for this character stand out, and it just looks... I don't want to say unique, because unique in toys can be very overused way too much, and even I use it too much, but it's one of those things that stands out. So, yeah, that bit off, and... there we go. The one thing that I always find a little bit frustrating is whenever you have a complicated transformation that takes too long to do, that's when you would immediately give up. But I'm not going to give up, so whatever. Right. Put the legs down like so. And of course you can see that he has a wide hip range, which is quite commonplace, but get these guys off because they're going to come in later for the robot mode. And of course, there we have Highbrow's legs partially done, with the exception of these pieces which will fold up. And of course, finally detach the top half, which will reveal the robot head, which we're going to get onto in a minute. But just to make sure everything's out of the way so that this can look nice. Right. Here we go. This is how the figure would normally look a lot of the time. But here, of course, is Highbrow in his robot mode. And now, when I said before that this character is a very old, fragile Transformer, the fragility in this design works in that it looks very deceiving. The first thing I'm going to look at, of course, is the head sculpt. Now, this is a minor thing, but the head sculpt to me looks a little bit too gormless. I don't know if you can see it or not, but then again, this is one of those. This is a head design that is very similar to that of the movieverse, and it has that interesting trait of having faces in the movieverse that, of course, are very overly designed and very detailed to the point you can't recognize them, and that's a very good thing. But the head looks quite nice. Of course, it has light piping, which is a given, but there you go. And one thing as well that I like as well is that because this is an old plane Transformer, of course, this has a battle mask in that you can actually have the mask going right down. So now he's wearing his battle mask. And like a pilot with his helmet that was flying these planes back in the day, this, of course, has a very sort of retro look to it, and it just looks fantastic as well. I actually like that the helmet down rather than up. If you want the head up, that's fine. But then again, if you want to have this guy in battle all the time, have the helmet down. I don't know why, but for some reason this reminds me the head design reminds me a little bit like Abe Sapien from Hellboy. If you don't know what Hellboy is, go read the comic. But yeah, the mask on the face just looks a lot like Abe Sapien from Hellboy. Just saying. The rest of the figure, one thing as well, the head can rotate to the 4360 as well. Then again. So, articulation aside, what do you expect? The articulation, the arms can rotate the whole 360, the elbows can move as well, legs can move, and the knees can bend as well, so knee articulation, elbow articulation is very good. The rest of the figure is fantastic. Now, granted, this figure is not posable, so you can't really do a whole lot with it, but this is a fantastic representation of an old character, and it just looks really good. Now, one thing as well that I like as well to put this guy in attack mode is that the rotors, of course, with these can act as a sort of machine of death, a weapon of death. Of course, if someone's standing in the way, you can just mow them down with these, and that's pretty good as well. As for these, you can actually have the little guns just resting in. Well, it depends on where you want them. Actually, you can either have them resting either in the hands, like so. Or you can have them either resting on the hips. But me personally, I like them on the hands, so there you go. But here, of course, is Highbrow in one of his only poses that you can put him in, though. And that's a shame. But then again, this figure isn't posable, so what do you expect? But what can I say? This figure is a really good figure. It's a very unique design. Well, again, I'm using that word too much. Unique, sorry. Scratch that out. Interesting. It's an interesting take on an old character, and it just looks really, really clever. It's cleverly handled. The robot mode is very, very good. It's perfectly designed from the body right up to the waist. The arms, everything about the design is just really good. The color scheme is bland, but then again, what can you do? The figure, of course, just looks fantastic. This is a fine example of taking two traits from two different lines and incorporating them together, and to me this feels more like a classics figure in some way, because it has that classics vibe, but at the same time belongs in the movieverse, and it just looks really, really good. It just looks really, really good. So, would I recommend this figure? Well, take your pick. I mean, if you're interested in this sort of thing, I would recommend it. If you like the movieverse, I would highly recommend this figure, but if you want something close to the classics line, this is close as you're going to get, I think. But overall, this is a great figure. Also, by the way, from what I can remember, this mold, of course, was retooled to make Generations Power Dive, which I might get that, but then again, I would. One thing I would like to see is this guy with a different head sculpt, with the same color scheme as G1 Highbrow. Just thinking, Hasbro, have that idea, but there you go. Hunt for the Decepticons Highbrow. I like this figure a lot. I would highly recommend him. He is a fantastic toy. Great design, great detail, weak color scheme, but then again, what do you expect? So anyway, this has been Hunt for the Decepticons Highbrow, and I am Skullgun140. I'm going to be doing a few auto assembly related things that I picked up. So in the weeks to come, I shall be reviewing a lot of the stuff that I bought. So hopefully, I should keep you entertained. But until then, folks, see you all soon. Take care.